Thanks.
Okay. So I suppose we'll just go right through the list, right? We call to order. Is that how that works?
So I guess I should probably write something down.
Yeah. Dan, am I assuming you're taking minutes?
I guess so.
Okay. Unless Judy wants to do it.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, that was quick.
We think you just do a great job, Dan.
I want you to just stop.
Exactly.
So we called the order at 7 p.m.
7 p.m. Exactly. And if I'm looking the other way, it's because I'm looking at my other screen, so I apologize if I.
No problem.
Yeah.
Dean,
Okay.
are you listening?
I think he was in and out. He was
Yep, I'm here.
No.
Oh, there he is.
Hey,
Okay.
should you be included as a participant in this meeting?
Oh, you don't have to include me.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
Okay, and then approval of minutes is the next item. So the minutes went out. I think that everybody was copied on them. If not, I'll give everybody a few minutes to find the minutes. They were on the Pingree Grove page, and then we can decide if we want to approve.
I approve.
Yep.
Approved.
I approved.
Yeah, I approve too.
Okay. All right. So the next item here is meeting discussion items. So we have 3 discussion items tonight. One is the discussion of the pollinator garden, final details, recommendations for completion. I think we've done a pretty outstanding job of finishing up what we have accomplished so far. And then the second item is recommendations for future plans of the 16-acre park. We've chatted about it a couple different times, so maybe we can just make a recommendation to the village board. And then third item is new, brought to us by Dean and I think Pat, some discussion regarding future improvements of existing parks. There's a number of existing parks, of course, that are all over Pingree Grove. So they, in some cases, need some repair and some improvements. And the village asked us to take some discussion around that. Okay, so those are the meeting items. All right, so we'll go back to the first one and discuss the pollination garden and how we want to complete it. Since we've done everything we possibly can right now, and Catherine, please correct me, but I believe we're short some grasses and some other plants that weren't available from the nursery, but maybe you can provide better detail there.
Yeah, so we're only short 2 plants. They're just 2 grasses that they'll take up a little bit of space. So I think those are going to be ready at the end of June, if I remember correctly from their invoice.
Okay.
So those will probably come either beginning of June or end of June. But for the most part, we're pretty much done. And when those come in, it'll be really easy to just I don't think we need an entire team of people to do that. We just need, there's 2 plants, so we'll just go in and do it.
Okay, and it sounds like we may get notice from either Dean or somebody at the city, right, when they're ready. They'll pick them up for us, and then they'll tell us when we can accomplish that, right?
Probably. They'll probably end up with flowers, and they'll want us to get rid of them.
Yep, that's fair. Okay. And then the other item was because of the cost with not only the Calan-Chan and the budget we asked the village for, we managed to spend almost all of the $22,000 that we had asked the village for. But it also meant that the plant budget was reduced by, I think, what was it, about $1,500 to $2,000?
Wasn't it 3,000? I don't
Yeah.
know. I thought it was more than that, actually.
Yeah.
Either way,
Well-
I think we have to approach it as we need to see what else is available for us money-wise and ask the village to approve the additional fundings. After seeing the park the way it is, although laid out as best as we can, and truly, Catherine did a phenomenal job. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But I think we need to fill in the empty spaces. There's just a ton of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
there's
agree.
plenty of water that gets to there, so we'll be able to water them easily, that's for sure. So, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think that we probably should ask for more funding. There are a lot of extra spot. There's a lot of space, especially with to be honest. I know you guys like say all these nice things, but you don't. I think the obvious is that like the spacing and stuff. I don't think I did like that great of a job on. Where like now there's a lot of open space in the middle, and I think that probably needs a lot of attention. So I think I would agree that we would need to ask for a little more funding for some plants.
Yeah, but I think because you left a lot of open space in one area, we can concentrate our efforts to making that area kind of like it is in the center of the garden, so it could be one of the focal points. If we get additional funding, we can change what that even looks like with plants and colors if we want.
I agree.
But the question is how much do we need? Do we talk about just going after the funding to get the original list that we thought, or do we look at it as, do we want to spruce it up even more than that?
Maybe we can go in stages. You know, like maybe ask for some money for the middle, and then, you know, I think we also have to watch the garden and see how it does over time, because maybe there's some plants just won't do well, so maybe we'll have to come back. I think like maybe a slower approach of just asking for funding a little bit at a time might be better, maybe more inclined to pass through.
Part of me wonders, though, it's sort of that, and I know, I'm sure we've all felt this, and you being in accounting probably have seen it too. When we have a budget, it's sometimes better to spend some of that budget or ask for it up front. And this way, you know, we're not hit with other issues that prevent us from getting the job done. And really, truly turning that park to what it should be and what we originally designed it to be. Steve, how much do we have left in available funds?
For the grant, the way the revenue and expense, it's called a revenue and expense parks fund. There was the open lands grant that was $10,000, and then there was the D.R. Horton donation that was $40,000. So the total revenue was $50,000, and various other expenditures. We now have a total of $16,343.65. So let's call that about $16,000 is what's left in the grant. And I believe the Cal and Shan, the overage was about $1,500. I could do a little math there, but I think that was mostly due to the timbers, a little bit of lime, and some mostly, I think it was timbers and soil. That was the overage because of where the location was. So, yeah. So there's $16,000 in the grant.
So
we're over about $1,500. Yep.
We have $16,000, and just because of bullet point 3, I'm going to say that we would probably want to keep some of that for any additional parks and not just focus on the pollinator garden. But out of that $16,000, I think we should ask for what we need to finish out the pollinator garden. And then maybe it's, you know, a bench, maybe it's 2 benches, maybe it's the rest of the flowers in the bench or benches. I think just get it done with. You know, plant the stuff and have it start growing at the same pace and fill in at the same time, and instead of trying to piecemeal it. That, mind you, is my opinion. So anybody else want to speak up, that's fine. And I know, Catherine, you voiced yours as far as maybe going at it one step at a time. Whatever the committee chooses, I'm fine with. That's what I kind of go for.
I didn't realize we had so much extra funding left over.
Well,
I don't think we want to spend all of it.
No, that was
It'll be a pretty filled garden if we do that much with
Yeah.
$16,000.
Yeah.
I do think we should put a bench in there. Actually, on Facebook, somebody mentioned that they'd like a bench in there, and I thought that's kind of nice because we had plans for that, and after all, it is what they want to. So I do think a bench would be a good priority in there.
Yeah, I've got some comments, but maybe Judy, since you've been back, have you had a chance to see the garden? Have you had a chance to walk by?
The only time I went by, it was raining, so no.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we definitely talked about, when we talked about finishing up the garden, we talked about a bench. Dean sent me information on some of the benches they have at the other parks, those metal outdoor benches that, you know, are basically green and black. You know, they've got the mesh backing. If I had, maybe I could show you guys what it looks like on the screen. But those benches,
I know what they look like.
Yeah, those benches are $400. So
what about the whole scout project we had talked about?
That's another possibility. I mean, with the whole virus thing, I didn't even approach the scouts. But typically, you know, $400 is more of what I would call your final scout project or eagle project kind of thing, where they would have to fundraise on their own. They would raise the $400. They would find the labor to dig the holes, put the concrete in, and all that stuff. So it's not a bad project, but typically these projects take about 6 months to get organized. So
Okay.
because of the COVID thing, I didn't even want to approach them. But the other thing is, if we want to put one of those benches in, we could take it out of the budget, propose to the village that we spend the $400 plus, you know, $50 worth of concrete, a post hole digger, to put it in. Or we could go a different style bench where it's, you know, wood or something like that. And maybe that's, we build it on our own, but Dan, you might have a better idea what that would cost.
Well, you know what? For some reason, I'm not sold on green and black for the garden. I don't know. Part of me screams that it should be like a brownish or a light brown bench. But if we want to make everything look uniformed, that's fine too. I know resin benches last forever. They need very little upkeep. Those things are anywhere from $200 to $400 as well, so it's all within the price range. You're not talking a lot of money either. So if we went to the village and said, you know, we want 1 or 2 benches, then, you know, can we get that funding for it? I can find, I'm looking online right now. We can even put something and order one from a place called Bench Factory that comes up to just under like $560 for one, but you can actually customize the back of it to say something if we wanted to, or maybe put Pingree Grove, or a Pingree Grove symbol in on the bench, and it's customized. So I don't know if we want to explore that route or not.
you know, I'm open to the bench. I mean, we designed that nice big area that we wanted to face out towards the lake. You know, if we use the traditional bench as a budgetary item, meaning $400 a bench, do we want to ask the village for 2 benches worth, you know, $800 worth, and plus the balance of
Just
the
round up to
flowers?
1,000. Just round up to 1,000 and ask for another $2,000 for the flowers. Because are we short $2,000 or was it only 1,500?
I want to say it was 2,000. I can pull up my stuff.
Yeah, I think it was too.
Yeah, your first, I mean, if we go all the way back to the original design, I think, Dan, you had numbers that were in that $8,000 to $9,000 range, right?
Oh no, I'd seen a list for like $16,000,
Yeah.
and I was like, they were buying full-grown trees, I think, at that point.
Yeah. But I think we started with 5,000, if I remember, Catherine, because we thought Cal and Chan was going to be around 17,000.
Yeah.
And then 5,000 would have been the plant budget, including the signs and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, so that original layout I did was 5,487, which that one we didn't even know what was gonna like end up happening with that budget. We didn't even know what it was gonna be. And then the final budget was $2,603.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's a big drop. And I do think that it came out to be a little bit more than that when we did get the final invoice, probably maybe taxes or something.
There was like 2,800 and some change, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was.
So we're still short roughly $2,000, but if we asked, or it's a little bit more than 2,000 from our original estimate, but even if we ask for 2,000 more for flowers, it's going to fill in a massive amount of space.
I agree. Because it's basically the same budget, just like $800 less.
Right.
You know?
Right. Exactly. But we're getting the benches out of it. It's actually, we would be roughly 2,200 for flowers if we asked for the 3,000. I know it seems like we're splitting hairs, but it's such a minute amount. Actually, $200 makes a huge difference in flowers.
So just to be clear, Dan, are you proposing $800 for benches and $2,200 for flowers? Is that what you're saying? So a total of $3,000?
Yeah, actually, what I really just want to do is say that we need $3,000 to finish up the garden. Funds will be geared to getting remainder of flowers and adding benches, because it gives us some flexibility if we need to. I don't want to earmark $800 only for benches.
Well, I'm thinking the village would want a breakdown on what we think the estimates are. And I mean, I'm okay saying 3,000, but I'd want to throw in, I'd want to throw in the sign into that budget.
Yeah, well, we got to talk about that as well then.
So, because then you would
I
say,
mean, ultimately, Steve, I would love to see us use no more. I mean, honestly, ask for no more than $4,000 to finish that project. This way, $12,000 could be stored away.
Yeah, for other parks related activity. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm looking up the.
I'm writing this all down. So if somebody else wants to talk, that would be great.
Do we know anything about the pricing of signs? I honestly am not very familiar about that at all. Because we want to, I can't remember, do we need a sign that says like there's going to be a sprinkler system? Is that what we need to have a sign for? And well, I mean, obviously for obvious reasons we need a sign, but then do we need it to say like there's a sprinkler in there?
We could ask the village to give us a couple of, because if we go to signs, I was only thinking of the sign for the garden. So, like this is the pollination garden, Pingree Grove, design, Parks Committee members, whatever is the appropriate, verbiage on the sign. We could ask the city to help us with the sign, like you said, the sprinkler, whether or not there's parking, because they did talk about whether or not they might open up, part of the road for parking, right? So if you were over at the community gardens, or if you're wanting to stop by the pollination garden, maybe they have a sign they put on the side that says parking is available between 8 and 5, those kind of things. Maybe we could ask them to provide those signs so that we don't have to worry about, the good old fashioned metal signs with metal posts. But yeah, and the sprinkler sign was necessary because we also talked about, having the village kind of mow us a path, which they agreed to, but we probably want to get that in writing to them. That would be my suggestion, is ask them to do it. If not, then we got to put a bunch of signs in the budget.
So do we just ask for $4,000, explaining that it will be geared towards signs, benches, and total completion of the pollinator garden, the pollination garden? I'm not sure which one we're going to call it. And call it a day.
Yeah. I'm okay.
Honestly, if we can get under that, great, but not to exceed $4,000. Judy, what are your thoughts?
Wouldn't the village already have access to signs at a cheaper price? And to leave that on their shoulders, wouldn't that be a smart thing to do?
I propose that they do all those metal signs, any of those signs. But if we wanted a, I don't know what the right word is, the entrance type sign, one that we would put in the grass right before you walk into the garden, that's the sign I was talking about. Every other sign, I would agree with you, Judy, that maybe we ask the village, who does signs all day long, for a lot of other projects, that maybe they could help us there. So
Yeah, we'll have to find out if they're going to want to charge us back for it. But even then, I'm sure they can get. They can get it a lot cheaper and easier than we can.
Or they make them, right? A lot of. I forgot if the village has the opportunity to make signs. They just make them and print the sticky letters or whatever they do as they go. Yeah. I would imagine all those signs are pretty regimented, right? No parking, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So the only thing I would want to break out is our estimates. If we were going to say 4,000, I can envision somebody in the village board saying, "Tell me how you want to spend that 4,000." So if we were going to throw that number out there, I'd say the flowers are X, the benches are X, and the entrance sign is X, whatever we want to call that. And that came up to approximately 4,000.
Sounds good.
Okay. So I have, you want to say 2,500 for flowers, 1,000 for the benches, and 500 for the sign?
Yeah. And if that number changes, I can always redo the flowers.
Well, and
good at
the
that
flowers,
now.
Yeah. I know it's details, but I think most of the flowers have to go in the middle. I know that you spread out a lot of the flowers in some of those areas, but actually, if you go look at them, they look pretty good. In terms of how we ended up spreading out some of those peripheral areas. But I agree with what Dan said earlier. There was, the middle is bare.
Yeah,
right?
The middle took the biggest hit.
Exactly.
That's all right, though. I think it was probably a better idea to take it from one spot. So this way we're not trying to piecemeal everything together, so everything will be great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think if we wanted to propose this, I'm just not dealing with the village all the time, do we need to propose a list to them with the flowers? Here's the area, here's the flowers that we would put in there, and this is why we think it's approximately 2,500, or?
I don't think we did that the last time.
No, we didn't give them a list.
Just put in we just put in a budget of this is what we wanted, and then because we received pricing of per plant. That's how, correct me if I'm wrong, Catherine, but that's how you knew to reduce what you did, right? Because
Yeah,
you
we
knew how
just-
much it
we
was
just
going
winged
to
it.
each cost, yeah.
Yeah, you got the one pricing from Wilson, and then when we found out the total cost, then I think, Catherine, we kept reducing it down until we ended up with something under the
Mm-hmm.
22,000, and then that met the grant requirement, so the village could file their paperwork for the open lands grant and close that, and then we spent the rest, 12,000. So,
Sure.
okay, so the
But I don't
official.
think we gave them a list.
No, we didn't, because we didn't have the list at the time.
Right.
So the official proposal is $4,000 to the village, $2,500 for flowers, about $1,500 for benches.
No,
and
1,000 for benches.
1,000. 1,000 for benches and 500 for an entrance sign, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mhm.
within that proposal, we're hoping the village can support us with everything from no parking signs to sprinkler time, and then any other sign that they would want to have, posted. I don't know if there's any signs posted by the community gardens. Is there? Is there any like no trespassing or no entry after a certain time or anything
I
crazy?
don't
like
know
that?
if I've ever seen that.
Okay.
I mean, we could walk by there and find
Yeah.
out, but I don't think I've seen that. I know, I mean, I really like the entrance, the trellis that was built.
Mhm.
I really like that. I mean, I wouldn't mind doing that, but I'll be honest, I really like how just the entrance looks as is.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, just kind of like not having anything in the way of it.
Yeah, I had, as long as we're talking about that, I had Christian go out there and take a look at some sort of lower level sign, maybe like a two sides or a triangular sign. So as you're walking down the path, you could see part of the sign. If you're walking the other way down the path, you could see part of the sign. And then, of
Oh,
course,
that's cool.
the backside would be, we could put, design, built, planted by the following committee members. And then on the two parts of the triangle, you could just say, hey, Pingree Grove Pollination Garden, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we could put some things that are like ComEd, DRH, donation. I mean, if we felt like we wanted to put all that stuff on there, we could put it on there like a little plaque or something like that. And
Yeah.
Dan, I was thinking that was, I don't know, 3 4x4s you'd pound into the ground, and then you'd have some nice fancy artwork with the laser or something like that. But anyway, that's
I was actually giving that some thought. The issue with using the laser to do anything and to burn it is the weathering effect.
Dan
right?
has a
So,
laser, by the way. He's all got it. So just in case.
I like playing. But the problem is the weathering of it. So
Yeah.
we can easily create it, paint it, and let it be that way as well, which would be fine. It's very cost effective. I can do something as big as 2 foot by 3 foot. So I think we have options to do that. I wouldn't mind trying it. It's definitely something that's doable, but we would just have to design. We would have to figure out what we want on it.
Right.
And I mean, let's face it, we will have to do something to keep whatever artwork or whatever is done on that wood protected
Right.
from rain. Period, because otherwise it just washes away.
Or another way, Dan, is we could build the 3-sided sign. Like I say, it's nice, low profile, but we could have a metal insert. You know what I mean? We could take one of those no parking signs and turn it on its side and basically print all the stuff we wanted on there, and then it's weathered, right? So we have a nice
Right.
framed wooden sign, and then the inside is metal so that it lasts. And then the wood's treated, and we stain it, and
Right.
doesn't really cost us too much effort to dig a couple of post holes and put it into play.
You remember digging in that park? It wasn't that easy.
Yeah, we needed a little bit of help from Phil and his team to help us grind through the concrete we were digging.
Yeah.
Judy, you missed out. The digging was, we had nice soil, and then it rained, and then it
Froze.
froze, and then we went out there and started digging into what we thought was concrete when it first started.
Yeah, when I think it was about 40 degrees outside too, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so we definitely earned our stripes that day with.
Yeah.
I'm sure you did.
The shovel. I was surprised we didn't break a couple shovels.
I broke one over my knee, but that was about it.
Okay, so back to the proposal. $4,000, $2,500 for flowers, $1,000 for benches, $500 for a sign that we'll try to
be determined.
To be determined. We'll go with the triangular sign to start with. We'll ask the village to see if they can support us with any necessary signs, metal signs that need to be in the area. And then the last sign discussion was a crazy idea, Dan, we had about, do we need to list the type of plants that are in the garden? So
I love the idea of it. I don't know why. I think it just reminds me of either the botanical or the Morton Arboretum, where you kind of walk around and you're like, oh, look at that. I'll never remember the Latin name, but now I know what that flower is.
Right.
Kind of thing.
How many different plants do we have?
How many different? Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, that's a Catherine
yeah, let me
there.
look real quick. We have.
You would think after you sorted them all, you would know.
Yeah. I thought it was like 75, but I think I overestimated it one time.
Why did I think it was 57?
There's only 24. There's not that many.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's because we removed some. Yeah, who knows?
Well, I think it's because when the original plan that they had, I looked at all the flowers and I analyzed them, and I looked online at prices and stuff like that, and they just honestly, I looked on the websites and they just didn't sell a lot of them.
Okay.
So
we have 24.
A lot of them aren't native.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we have 24, maybe up to 30 different kinds of plants. Once you add more plants in there, maybe even more.
Yeah, so we can actually, when we get that 2,500, we can prioritize putting more types of flowers in there if you want that sign to grow bigger.
But I haven't been to the botanical garden, so are there like little bitty signs, that are posted by each flower?
They're 3 by 6s. They're 3 by 6s.
3 by 6 inches size. Okay.
Yep. And they usually have the Latin name and then the English name. And then, yeah.
And are they metal? So they wear?
Yeah, a lot of times they are, so they don't wear. I don't know. I've never looked into what. I mean, these could be dirt cheap for all I know. It might be worth. Yeah, but it might be worth reaching out to the Botanic Gardens or Morton Arboretum and saying, hey, do you have any of these things laying around? Do you have? Just be creative to see if they're willing to donate or willing to do something to help us. I mean, it's an option.
That's an option. I mean, we have to decide whether or not we want to include that in the budget. I mean, is that already part of the signage?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, I would love to. I mean, if we're going to, why not, right? But if they're expensive, then, that's the first thing to be cut.
Right. Then we figure out a more economical, cut a Cool Whip top, put a popsicle stick on the back, and like we were kids, right? I'm kidding, of course, but I don't know why.
That would be the Boy Scouts helping us with that.
Hey, I mean, we could come up with a couple of projects that now that things are opened up a little more, that would be important to do that. And that could help reduce our budget if we could actually find an Eagle Scout that needed a project and say, hey, well, we got a bench we got to buy or build. It's $500. You willing to tackle it? You got to build it. You got to fundraise for it. I mean, I could still take those conversations if we want to do that. I could take an action to reach out to the Three Fires Council, which is the council that governs this area, and see if they've got any Eagle project or the Eagle Scouts that need projects. Do you want me to take that action?
Well, did you say it would take like 6 months then to get the bench?
Usually because it takes a long time to put together the proposal and get it approved and make sure that it's, you know,
It would be
they have
June,
lots of,
August, September,
unfortunately,
October,
yeah.
then November.
Well, I mean, we would say, hey, the project's got to be finished by October 1. We'd have to be willing to wait that long.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my personal opinion, because these things take time to get approved, and then fundraising, because the scouts have to come up with their own ideas on how to fundraise.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'd want to wait that long for the bench, but I wouldn't be opposed to waiting that long for signs.
Oh.
The signs designated
Right,
for
yeah,
flowers.
Well, why don't we take a task to call the
So
board and
just
arboretum
so
and
you
find out?
know, just so you know, I can buy a metal sign stand. So you would print on paper, laminate it with, you know, a hard coat laminate for weatherproofing. And then you could, these are 7 inches by 5 inches, and they are 18-inch on an 18-inch leg. For 25 of them, they're $2.25 a piece. We're talking $70 plus whatever printing we wanted to do and laminating. I have the laminate and I have the laminator as well.
Sounds like that fits our budget. That sounds
So-
like less than $100.
But I mean, it's literally less than $100 if we wanted to do that.
Well, why don't we? I'll propose that we just have it included as part of the $500 sign estimate that we have.
Yeah, so I'm taking note of this, but I might not remember. So somebody else remember this. So the place that it is coming from would be Forestry Suppliers. But you can
Forestry
buy 'em.
suppliers. Okay,
Mhm.
I got it.
Thank you.
Okay, so that I would still propose that's part of our $4,000 ask of the village, that we'll create plant signs and an entry sign.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And hold on a minute. Do we have any other items that we need to finish in the garden besides more plants, some signs, and some benches?
Do we need to add more mulch? We had a little bit of space left. I mean, we could just put that into the flower budget. I mean, I think it would take like 2 bags, which is like $6. Maybe I just pick it up at Home Depot.
I think the village said they could give us some more if we needed to, you know, but they got a truckload. I know when we put it down, we could have used another yard or 2 of mulch to give it a deeper layer. But maybe we ask the village to see if they can provide some mulch, because they have a standard that's the standard color from what I understand across all the parks.
Okay.
So we can just ask them for mulch, and then if they want to charge us, hopefully, I mean, you can buy a yard of mulch for $25. So I think we can probably fit that into the budget.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else that's missing? I have this feeling that something else is not there. My son runs by there every day he runs. Tegan, he takes a chance to walk through there, and he said, it seems like it's in pretty good shape. Nothing's been eaten, and so that's positive, because I was nervous about rabbits and some of the other critters that might eventually find the garden. But you know, I know the community gardens has a lot of their vegetables
Aged.
were caged off. So
Yeah.
I haven't seen the need to get cage areas, but I suppose we tackle that when it happens.
Yeah. Oh, we're just let them grow a little bit. Maybe they'll grow big
Exactly.
enough where it won't be a problem.
That's right. I'll say this just for Judy. We can use all sorts of chemicals and everything, you know, to protect it if you want, right, Judy? So,
Yeah, right.
okay, so final proposal is the 4,000. Dan, you got the notes on that, or I do too as well. And that closes out topic number 1. That we want to make a proposal to finish that and provide the labor whenever we get the last part of the grasses and the flowers and the approval from the village. And
Do we need
we
to
go
vote
from
on
there.
that proposal?
I think we need to officially vote on that, right?
I think so.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the proposal that we pitched to the village, that we need $4,000 for flowers, benches, signs, and mulch, all to be included, and to also ask the village to support us on some signs. Okay.
Aye.
All in favor, I guess.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, so that's 4 ayes.
Okay, unanimous. All right.
Looking good?
Noted.
Okay.
Noted.
All right. Noted. All right, moving on to the next discussion item, which is the future plan for the 16-acre park where the old pollination garden or the pollination garden originally was slated. We
If you've
chatted
been
about
driven
this.
by there, if you've driven by there lately, that southern end of the park is really attracts a lot of water.
Okay, that
It's
meant
like flooded at the southern end. What would be the
doesn't-
parking?
Oh, where the parking is
Yeah,
flooded.
would be the parking lot.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't realize that. I know. Oh, I thought maybe you had was closer to where that
The dog park, I was thinking for some
the
reason.
dog park, or where the on the other side, I think, is where our the
Right.
Prairie Farms thing is, or wherever the bulls are.
Mhm.
There were
The
little
only pro-
puddles, but the biggest amount of water I saw was at the southern and eastern end.
Right. I'll just throw it out there. We talked about it a couple different times. I know we had to refocus in on the pollination garden, but to me, there's 2 proposals that I would have. One, do nothing with it. And that's it. You just do nothing with it. The city, the village can continue to mow whatever they do, you know, and it'll become basically what it's there for. If you want to go and try to find some birds, but it's basically a piece of prairie grass area. Or the second is you start mowing my proposal, you start mowing certain sections of it and plant grass so that you could possibly turn it into a soccer field or someplace where somebody could go and throw a picnic table or something down. But it has grass, you know, something that's a little softer than whatever there is there. Those are my suggestions to throw out to you guys for discussion. So
I think
we can
before, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
I think before I left, you were going to go to the village with 4 ideas of that parcel. And one of them was to do nothing, if I recall.
that was the case. We never got to make that proposal because we had to refocus on the pollination garden again to get
Okay.
that going. But I know I put some PowerPoint stuff together that talked about, you know, what could it look like. There is no budget that I know of associated with it. I believe.
Well, when we started this whole thing 4 years ago, whenever it was, there was no budget for anything.
Right.
Everything had to come from grants.
Yep.
So
That's what I was going to say is I feel like we're going to have to take this park so slowly because we have to wait for grants to come in. And honestly, the research I've been doing with grants, it's going to be very slow if we even get any.
very slow.
Because a lot of the grants aren't for like municipals. It's more of like nonprofit organizations. And
Right.
I did talk to someone like who actually like does this for a living, where she pairs up with communities trying to build parks. And what she basically suggested was pair up with a nonprofit and then co-build the park together. And I don't know if that's an option. I don't even know if like anyone would, like the village would go for that. Cause
Yeah, I don't know. And they tend to go for places where there's low income families.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I mean, we're not a low income town, are we?
I don't think so.
So
No.
we didn't fit so many of the criteria. When I started looking at them, we just didn't fit anything
Mhm. Yeah.
except that open lands grant, which we got. So can you go for that grant again in another year? A different year than,
I don't know.
a couple of years down the road?
No rule against it. It probably just doesn't happen, like
Yeah,
if
that
something,
might be something looking into, though.
yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if we can actually go after matching grants at this point, though. I don't know if Pingree Grove's got the ability to put it
That's
in their
another
budget.
thing. Yeah, they're all matching grants.
Yeah, and right now that's a tall order to try to fill.
Yeah, I also believe in somewhere in one of the minutes from last year, this 16-acre park is on one of their long-term lists. If they put together all their wishes, I think the one intersection that's being built now is one of the top ones that was on that. I don't think the sewer build out was on that list, but they had a number of larger scale projects that were on that list, and I think this park was lower on the list. It was 8th, 9th, or 10th down the list. And I thought the number I remember was about, I hate to say $1 million worth of build out to do everything.
Mm.
So
you remember what we got quoted for the path?
yeah,
it was
the
one
path,
path to drive a truck down. We weren't even talking about walking paths.
right. That was, I don't know, that was like 40,000 just for the path to go from one corner
I
to
think
the other.
we figured,
Yeah.
I think we figured out it was like $500 and some thousand to do the walking paths.
Yeah.
And that's just the path. So, I mean, you're talking 7 figures easily. And I'm not good enough at writing a grant, nor have I ever tried, but I don't think I would be good enough to get us $1 million+.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need a donor. You need a donor who's, loves parks, loves Pingree Road, and is pretty close to death, unfortunately. Not to be,
Really?
direct, but I mean, unfortunately, these things get willed, the money. So, that comes back to my low-tech suggestion, which was let it be, or do we really want the village to, start to slowly turn it into some grass that's usable for kids or, teens or what have you, even in this day and age, better grass, what might accelerate even putting things like picnic tables out there. I mean, there's no water out there.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking, do you have it like a Bussy Woods setup, right, where you've got this massive picnic area that you can go in, and then there's this huge open field where you can play softball or do something. And I always think that that's such a great place to be at and to have in a town, because it gives kids and families options. Plus, it could technically be a money generator if we say, you could reserve the area for picnics of X, right? I mean, you can say $100 for the day you can reserve it. Something like that.
Yes, we have to fund the park.
Yeah. I mean, if you built a big pavilion, which we know, if you built a pavilion like a lot of these parks, even in Elgin, I mean, most of the parks just have a pavilion, they rent, and that's it. There's running water, a restroom that may or may not be covered, and that's how they start. And then they get people to show up, and eventually they build a better restroom, and then they can have picnics, and it's just open field. So what do we want to do? Do we want to make a recommendation to the village to say, and they might want a budgetary number too. Hey, do we want them to spend $500 on grass seed and some other stuff to slowly in 2020 start to build out more grassy areas? Or do we tell them to leave it alone?
I like the idea of doing just like cutting it down and making it grassier, just because then, I think we all want something there eventually, and that's kind of the foundation of doing that, because we all know that's not happening anytime. Like we can look for grants, we can still look for grants, but we probably won't get them and like anytime soon, and we won't get $1 million grant. We'll get maybe a $20,000 grant if we get any at all. So I think that's a good idea to just do that, because then it's really just laying the foundation of, if it's a long-term plan for them, then they can also see that as a plus for them, because like there is like a foundation already built there that they can kind of work off of, and then if we do get grants, then we can work off of that too.
The problem with that though, Catherine, is $20,000 at this point isn't going to dent even any of our projects, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the basketball court idea, when we kicked that around, talking $40,000 to $100,000 for a build up and everything like that. The paths are high six figures for the paths. The dog park, just on the dog park fencing alone to be put in, was $67,000. So I mean, it's just we either have to go after grants that are big and pray that we're going to get them, or we've got to turn this into a park that can be used for recreation, and where we don't have to worry about, the land being riddled with holes where kids run and they hurt themselves, right? We almost want them to skim coat it with dirt and throw grass on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just don't know if we can even lay the foundation for a park, at this point.
Yeah,
I'm kind of torn.
The grass would be that starting point where, like, then, if we get a $20,000 grant, maybe we can do like a picnic tables and like maybe like a gazebo or something, something just there. When I say foundation, I mean like just the starting point, not like actual cement.
No, I knew that, but I think the issue is just, we're gonna propose that we do this so we can get it long term. I don't even know how long we have the park, and we also have to say, the village has to agree. Right. The minute they do nicer looking grass, they have to keep up on that grass. They have to fertilize it. They have to do all of that. They have to weed it. They have to do that. So are they going to be in agreement to add this to their maintenance schedule, and I don't know.
Well,
because right now with the wild, right now with the wild grass, they can let it go 2 to 3 weeks and it's not affecting it. When you start talking about putting in a place for families and kids to go, you've got to maintain that every week. You also have to add weed killer, and you have to, do all of that stuff. Right now, it's just natural grass growing.
Yeah, and probably Johnny on the spot. Who knows? I mean, I don't think we have any parks that have a restroom, right? Anywhere, except for
they
the
have
ball.
restrooms,
Except
but they lack them. They only open them during baseball
The ball
games.
field. Yeah, the ball field is the only location I know of that has
Does the skate park have
it does.
anything?
It does.
But they're locked.
And they're locked.
People have complained about that they go there, on a Saturday afternoon with their family, and
right.
the park is there and the ball fields are there, skate park's there, but the bathrooms are locked. That was something they wanted us to do something about quite a while ago.
Okay.
And we had no jurisdiction over that.
All right. Okay.
So, I mean, we can propose it, but I don't think we can come up with a figure of how, unless you want to reach out, somebody wants to reach out to Pat and ask if, they'd be willing to do something like that and what the cost would be. I couldn't tell you how much that would be. I mean, I say $500 in seed, but that might get us a corner.
Yeah, I mean, the closest I could come to is taking a look at a bag of seed and say, what's the square footage of coverage, and say,
Right.
yep, we can buy $500 worth of seed and overseeding, and if you guys mowed it tight, you could convert, I don't know, pick 1 acre to grass, right? Just
Right.
as a guess. But if that's what we want to propose, then we could do a little research and say, hey, we really want you to mow it tight, plant some grass, and start to convert the prairie grass into lawn grass, so that the park can be usable. And we propose to spend $500 for that. I mean, that's what we want to say.
Do they need a recommendation like now, or
I put it on the topic
because
we've talked about it
we
over and
kicked
over.
it down the road so many times, and I'm ready to kick it again.
I'm not ready to kick it again. I was kind of hoping that the village would kind of give us an answer to say, do you want to spend any money on this park? If we propose to spend $500 to $1,000 to do green grass, and they declined it as a village board, then we know the answer. They don't want to deal with anything in the park because there's no funding for it. But if they want to start to convert it, slow process, a little bit here, another $500 in 2021 or whatever it is, then maybe they could convert it to green space.
I'm okay with that. I mean, if we want to go just a very simple route to see if the village wants us to continue developing a 16-acre park or not, then yeah, you're right. Let's go with the grass. And if they say that it's not in their budget for this year, but they'll put it in for next year, well, all right. Well, next year's not that far away.
No, I mean, we could, not that I want to use the word force a decision, but if we say, if the village board wants to continue to develop this park, then the Parks Committee is recommending right now, with a limited to zero budget, that they spend $500 to $1,000 to start converting prairie grass to green grass. Is that what they want to do? And if that's the proposal I would put out there.
What happens to the money that's left over from the pollinator garden? Or
my guess is they'd want us to use it.
Yeah,
they'd want us to use it. So we started with 16. We're proposing to use 4. That leaves us 12 and some change. If we said we wanted them to use another 1,000 to start planting grass on a park that's not very close to anything, that's what, people, they could debate that in the village board. And then that would leave us $11,000 left to deal with the other parks. And Pat would need to give us a list of what they're thinking and what kind of improvements might need to be made for some of those other parks in the town. So I don't have that in front of me. I just have a map of a lot of different parks, but there's
are they all in Cambridge Lakes?
I have they're mostly in Cambridge Lakes, park locations A through R. So if my alphabet's any good, that's, it's about 15 or 18 parks in Pingree Grove. That
do they consider the playgrounds parks though?
Neighborhood. Let me see here. No, they have neighborhood locations. Everything from Bayfield to Chesapeake, and then the Caroline subdivisions, and then they have, including the Heritage District, and then they have parks A through R. I would guess that Caroline has a few parks. I'd have to look.
Carolyn's got some big parks, I think.
So anyway, my guess is there's like one big green space in Carolyn, I think. And then throughout the rest of the area, there's a number of smaller green areas. So that's my proposal. If you guys want to go with it, if not, maybe we just ask the village, do you want us to do anything with the 16-acre park? And make
give
a
us some
proposal
direction.
to you.
We haven't had a direction
Well,
from
I think,
day one with the
No.
village.
yeah, and that's all I heard too when I started is we really haven't gotten any clear direction. I don't know.
No.
It doesn't even matter at this point. I just think right now, Steve, your idea is probably the best way to approach it, and you know, along with Catherine's, is just say, okay, well, we're going to start the first process if you want us to. It'll be this much of an investment. If they don't take that investment, I guess we could just assume what they want to do with it. It's the most minute thing we could ask for.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the official proposal then, is
It's down.
convert. Yeah.
Noted.
All right. Noted.
I'll
Do
approve.
we need to agree on the proposal to present? Do we need to officially vote on it?
Oh yeah, we do actually. If we're going to present something like that,
Yeah,
we
we're going
do.
to present something.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
What exactly are we presenting?
We are going to present that if the village wants to continue to develop the 16-acre park, the village Parks Committee recommends that we take the first step in converting the park and plant grass seeds and fill in any holes. This way it could be a more usable space.
Okay, except that doesn't give us any direction. We need direction from them.
We can approach that, I guess, after we find out if they want us to even invest the $500 or whatever it might be.
So this is like a test
to
of how
see.
far they want to go.
Yeah,
Are they willing to take the
which
first step?
right, it's a win-win. I mean, we're going to get an answer one way or another. If they say, yeah, we want to continue, then great. We can approach then of saying,
Okay.
well, since you want to continue and you've invested this money,
Then I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
And I
perfect.
agree. Yep.
Right.
Okay.
All approved.
All approved. The last topic is just I think it's more of a basic introduction. So I called it discussion regarding future improvements for existing parks. If I look at, looking up the information I have from Dean. So I'll read it to you from Dean. The village board engaged in some discussions last evening. This would have been the 18th of May. Of the idea of putting park benches on Wester as well as repairs needed for existing village parks in consideration of the remaining park impact fees we have. They've asked Pat to identify repairs he feels are critical. And I advised the board that I really wanted to engage the committee, that's us, for your thoughts on priorities, whether it be park benches on Wester, in other areas, or future or further enhancement of the pollination garden. I'll get a confirmation on the remaining funding we have, which we have, that's the $16,300. If you could start giving some consideration to priority for the future improvements, he'd appreciate it. So I think we've already discussed part of that is we want to use the 4,000 for the pollination garden and finish that.
Right.
We kind of just proposed to use 500 to 1,000 for the 16-acre park. And so that leaves about 11,000
9 to
and some
10,000.
change.
11,000.
About 11,000 for us to get involved in the other parks to see not only what is critical, but what we want to do.
I think before I'd want to vote to do anything, I'd want to know which parks are they talking about?
What are the
What parks?
I'm
Pardon?
sorry.
Yeah, I really want to know what parks, like I want to go and see all of these.
Right.
Mhm.
So
And
we're
when they
supposed to
say
get a list.
park benches on Wester, do they mean along the bike path?
I
Or do
think
they have
mean-
certain spots you think benches would be appropriate?
Yeah, and it could be maybe, I would think a prime spot to put a park bench could be looking over the lake as you get over by the ball fields, right? I mean, if you wanted to sit there and instead of going all the way down the dock, right, into, you know, if you just wanted to stop and say, hey, this is a great view. I'm assuming there's benches there. I'm assuming they'd want benches by the bridge. If there's a place for that, you know, where you could look out over the lake again. And those benches, those are some of the benches that Dean sent me the information. Those are $400 a piece. So you can see how quickly that could add up if you wanted a $400 bench that turned into a $500 bench by the time you put concrete and city labor into it.
I've asked a few times, could some seating be put over by the skate park? Because I go over there on my bike, but when it's open, it's not open.
Right.
But there's no place to sit, to watch the kids.
Right.
Of course, the kids might not don't want me watching, but
yeah, I mean the only seating over there is facing the field, right? So you could sit on the bench, but you'd have to turn around. Yeah, the bleachers are facing the wrong way for that. But no, I think they want us to get involved, so that's the discussion.
okay.
Maybe that's. It sounds like we all want to be more involved with those kind of decisions. At least I do. I'll speak for myself. And then if we get a chance to spend $11,000 or even a little bit more money and make some recommendations, I think that's part of what this committee should be doing. I'll stop talking and listen to what you guys have to say.
I think we need more information as to
I
where
agree.
and what parks, where.
Yeah, and I want to know what they want to repair. You know, 'cause
Yeah,
then,
you said Pat was going to look into that.
Pat, there's an action already for Pat to provide that.
I'd like to hear what he says before we make any
Yeah,
recommendations.
I don't think we need to make any decisions. I think we just needed to have it as a topic for discussion.
Okay.
So I added it. And I think maybe the answer is yes, we'd like to be more involved. And then if Pat got to this committee critical items and then they gave us some discussion about where people want to put benches, then maybe we could take a look at the map. I have a map of the parks, like I said. Then we can make some recommendations back to the village.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, I mean, think about it. 10 benches times $500. That's $5,000.
Yeah.
So I'm certain that we could come up with 10 places to put benches.
When you drive into Cambridge Lakes on Richard J. Brown, it says 12 lakes on the sign. But then when you go down 72 and you see the sign for Parkside, it also says, I'm sorry, 12 lakes, 12 parks. It says the same thing, 12 lakes, 12 parks. Are those the same 12 lakes and 12 parks? Or are they building more over there, which means 24 parks? It's not clear to me.
That's a good question. I'm sure that maybe it used to be 12 parks, but hey, if I just look at park locations A through R, I think that's more than 12.
Yeah.
And some of those are very small. Even, you know, here where I live in the shores, there's a really small park at the top of the entrance. And I think there's one bench there, if I remember.
Yeah, there's one.
So, you know, kids want to go there and play and you want to sit on the bench, then you can do that. But maybe we don't have enough benches in some of these other areas, like you're talking about along Wester, at the skate park,
So
even in our pollination garden. Yeah. Which we're going to put benches in the pollination garden.
Right.
So if we get approved.
So I'm cool with wanting to know what they want us to, you know, I guess we need to understand, like Judy said, what the village is looking to improve, repair, and develop in Pingree Grove using the remainder of the funds. But I think we do need to, and I think to my point earlier, this is why I feel like we need to look at securing the funds to finish the park completely. Because if they want to use the remainder of the funds, well, we're done for until we get a grant.
Right, or we get a GoFundMe, or we'd have to do it all on a volunteer basis. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So I suppose that, let's say we get a list from Pat, then my guess is we probably have to not only meet, but I'm kind of a visual type person. I'd want to be driving and meeting at some of these parks, so that if somebody said, "Hey, we'd like to have 2 benches on Wester," okay, where on Wester, and let's drive
Right.
out there and take a look
Let's
at
go
it.
look. Yeah.
Road
Is that-
trip.
We're grown adults going to all the playgrounds.
That's right. We're creeping on all the kids in the playgrounds with
So
clipboards
wrong.
and stuff. Yeah, I know. No.
Except there's no kids there, you know.
Yeah. Right now, now is the optimal time.
Yes, it is.
So, you know, I don't know what the goofy governmental rules are, but I mean, are you guys open to meeting on certain evenings and getting together and going to these parks and at least taking a look?
I'm open to it. I think the rule's 10 people or less, and we're under 10, so I think we're good.
We're under
Yeah.
10. So we're under
Yep.
the COVID rules, but
Mhm.
and we're not really having an official meeting. We're just meeting at parks to gather information. We're not making decisions. So I think that's well within the rules. Then we would get back together and have a regularly scheduled Parks Committee meeting so we could address these timely, right? So we could get back to the village board on a timely basis, right?
So, so we have to find out, though, because if we all meet in one location at the same time, I think it does break the Opens Meeting Act.
3 of us.
No,
I would prefer-
if there's
I
a
would prefer-
quorum,
Yeah.
I would
we
prefer to
can't.
go
We
on my
can't.
own,
Okay.
just because I'm of that age group that has to be careful being around other people.
Okay.
I have
I
not been
understand
around
that
many people
completely.
since March 15th, so I'd
Okay.
like to keep it that.
Understandable. Hey,
So
health is the most
But I
important
just need to
thing.
know where I'm going, what the places are I need to look at.
the good news is
Yep.
we had a map. We'll have something from Pat,
Okay.
and then what
Sounds
we'll do is we'll pass that out. And then if they had any recommendations, like for these benches on Wester, where are they? Then what I can do, I can take the action to coordinate with Pat to get a map. When we'll just mark it up. Here's the benches. Here's where they are. We'll circle all the parks, and then what we'll have is everybody will have their own little road trip. No more than 2 people meeting up. That way we don't have a quorum. And then we'll get back together whenever we have that information and have an official committee meeting.
Okay.
Because
Sounds
I
good
would
to me.
imagine we'll have the 3 same topics to talk about the next time we meet.
I
What did the
imagine.
village board say about our proposed 4,000? What do they want to do with the 16-acre park? And how many parks did you guys visit? And what do we want to make recommendations for?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Very good.
All right. So I will, Dan, do we want to take an official action from me to coordinate with Pat and or Dean on?
Already doing it.
Okay.
Already doing it.
All right.
Catherine, you did a nice job with the posts on Facebook. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just go through the agenda. So we've gone through the discussion items. Any old business? Talked a lot about old business. Any new business? Anything that wasn't on the agenda that we want to talk to?
Or
you're
bring
saying-
up the next meeting.
Yeah. The only thing I don't know if we want to, but Judy, you mentioned it. Do we have to talk about locked bathrooms as part of new business, or is that a dead issue?
Well, whatever the reason for locking them, I'm sure hasn't changed.
Do we
I
want
mean,
to?
right now, even with the pandemic, they're not going to open them up. They're not going to do that until this is over, which could be, who knows what,
Well,
2 years
I
from
mean,
now. I don't know.
should we?
I don't
inquire?
even know if we have jurisdiction. I don't know if the Parks Committee is even over that.
I can
You can
ask.
inquire.
I can inquire just to understand what is the requirement. I know the ball field ones are governed by the ball field because I used to play ball up there. But I don't know about the skate park. I don't know how that's tied in because I know there's a restroom there.
Well, it's the same bathroom for the big skate park and the ball fields.
Yeah.
So,
So, yeah. Okay.
and the playground.
All right. So no new business. We didn't take any new business.
Nope.
The last item is adjournment.
Okay.
All right. So we will, I guess, adjourn.
I
at
move
8:15.
we adjourn this meeting at, what is it, 8:15?
Perfect. Judy moves.
Second.
Second.
It gets us in the minutes.
That's right.
We're not
Does
in yet.
anybody know, with all this Zoom stuff going on, when the next meeting is? The village board meeting?
Are they still doing it on every other Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah, they went to every other. So they just had one, a week ago,
The
Monday?
18th, I thought, right?
18th.
Hey guys, this is Dean. I was checking in on the meeting and heard that question. We had a special meeting on Tuesday. We're not having a meeting on June 1st. Our next meeting will be June 15th.
June 15th. That's good timing. So that allows us. So Dean, when do you need our official recommendations to you for the village to consider?
You look at the calendar quick. If that meeting is on June 15th, the agenda will go out on June 10th. So if I could have it by June 8th at the latest, that would be ideal.
Okay. All right. So Dan, that makes sense. We'll have the minutes and then we'll make the official request, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we'll meet that time frame. Okay.
All right. Did someone, you seconded, Catherine? So are we adjourned?
We're adjourned.
We are adjourned.
Thanks for setting up the meeting, Dean, and I think this worked out pretty well.
It's our pleasure. And if you guys
Okay.
need to use this again,
Thanks.
let us know.
Okay.
Good to see you all again.
Well, thank you
All
very
right,
much.
Judy.
It's
Bye.
great seeing you. Welcome back again, Judy.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Come back.